Every time I take a rocket out and launch it, yeah, I get nervous. There's a feeling of inevitability. You know, we've come this far, we've built it, it's fueled, it's ready to go. It's a question just in the countdown. So yeah, I'm as nervous as hell, and it's a strange feeling. I guess it's the kind of feeling that a general would have on a battlefield on the morning of the battle. You don't know what's going to happen, but you're there. This is the Nova 2 capsule. We actually built this to carry a person and do re-entry and landing tests with a parachute. So this is our first manned capsule. But this didn't go into space. What we did was we took this over to the States. We took it over to Arizona, threw it out the back of an airplane at about an altitude of about 10,000 feet with a guy on board. And what he did was he deployed the big parachute and he steered it back and brought it in for a landing. And he did that a couple of times to prove that this thing was reusable. The guy that actually flew it was the person that made the parachute. You know, I guess there's a bit of irony in there, or poetic justice, but we all reasoned that if there was an issue, if there was a problem, he'd be the best person to fix it or know what to do. So we tested this a couple of times, and it's still in great condition. You know, when we brought it back from the States, the guys were joking that maybe we should rub a bit of Arizona dirt into it to make it look used, because it came back, you know, so well preserved. But it's capable of carrying one person. It's got all the bells and whistles and switches inside of it. You've got 3 windows, you've got 2 cameras, one forward, one aft. You've got 2 parachutes, a main parachute in the front, and that comes out and that deploys like a big steerable wing, like a skydiver's canopy, only bigger. And then out the back there's an emergency parachute. So if things had gone pear-shaped and the main parachute hadn't worked, then the scenario was the guy would jump out, use his own parachute, and hopefully this would come back on the reserve.
Down. It's running. It's running on wheels.
Yes! Yes!
Steve continues to reach for the sky.
I actually learned to parachute so that I could actually fly something like this. I think I've done about 126 parachute jumps. I did accelerated free fall skydiving. The bottom line is I want to fly in a rocket, I don't want to fly into space, and if things don't work out right, it'd be nice to have a parachute so that you could get back safely. Now, during our launch profile, we've only got a 5% window where we can parachute out of the thing, and that's pretty small. But if I'm going to fly in this rocket, what I want is I want to have that contingency so that if something does go wrong in that 5% window, then I can jump out. And I'm that experienced in skydiving now that I feel much more comfortable free falling away from something like this than I would be strapped to it. Prior to the skydiving, I'd have been holding on to it for grim death, you know. But it's one of the things we're going to be using to sort the wheat from the chaff. If you want to fly with us, if you want to launch yourself on one of our rockets, you've got to learn to skydive. I would argue that if you haven't got what it takes to skydive, you shouldn't be thinking about strapping yourself to the top of a 14-ton rocket. When I look back, I see that we've achieved a lot. We've built rocket engines, the biggest rocket engines that have been fired in the UK in over 30 years since the government cancelled our space programme. We've done drop tests with capsules. We've built space capsules and chucked them out of aeroplanes with people on board, you know, and flown them back. We've built the biggest rocket ever flown from the UK mainland. We've built and launched that one. You know, so we're achieving this stuff. We've not got anything into space yet, but we're pretty close. I want to fly in space. That's why I'm doing it, pure and simple. If we can do stuff beyond that, I don't know, 20 years hence, flights to the moon or whatever, that would be great. But I want to fly in space.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I want to see the curvature of the Earth and the blackness of space, and I want to be an astronaut. I'm going to do that, and I'm happy to take along with me anyone that wants to share that dream. This isn't a selfish thing for me. I want to share it with as many people as possible. You know, it took, what, 500,000 people to put man on the moon. You know, all these government employees and everybody else that contributed. It's going to be the same deal with us. We don't need that many people and we're not going to spend that much money. But the more people we can bring into this, the more people that we can get to share the dream, the easier it's going to be. Everybody does a little bit and we'll get there. I really feel that I'm here to do something, you know, and my purpose in life is to open the frontier of space. I believe we can do it cheaply, you know, inexpensively and safely. It's possible to do that. And if we can do that, then it opens up all kinds of things for the human race. All the resources that mankind needs for the next 10,000 years are out there in space. All we've got to do is get that 100 miles or so up into space. And it's just too expensive to do that because governments have been messing around with us and with the space program for so long. Private enterprise has to do it. There's a cheap and easy way to do it, and I want to find that. That's what I'm focusing on. That's what I want to do. It's not so much about the rockets, it's not so much about getting into space, it's the journey, it's doing this thing. You know, I want to be remembered for something, and it's going to be private space travel.
A reminder that you can experience ultimate gliding courtesy of ActivitySuperstore.com. Just tell us how old you need to be to fly solo in a glider, A14, B16 or C18. To enter, call 0901 293 0204, leaving your full name and phone number and your answer A, B or C. Or text the word toys, then A, B or C to 63337. Calls cost £1, terms and conditions apply. Steve has just returned from New Mexico, where he's been testing the next generation of rocket engines. Cheap, reusable and safe spaceflight remains his dream. One day soon, he hopes it'll become a reality.